Okay, good morning, everybody. September 7th, Board of Control. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Tuesday, September 7th meeting. It is 11 a.m. Dale Miller.
Here.
Jim Boyle serving as an alternate for Nan Baker.
Present.
Pepper Meckler serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Here.
Melanie Say serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Erman Budish.
Here.
Catherine Takachek.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, next on our agenda is the review of the minutes from August 30th. I'll make a motion to approve them. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. Moving on to new items then, please.
First item, BC 2021-484, Department of Development, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 6497, which will result in a payment to Jumpstart Incorporated in the amount of $43,200 for operating support for the Shared Entrepreneur in Residence program for the period September 1st, 2021 through April 30th, 2022, and recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
One from development.
You want to come back to this?
Yeah, why don't we hold off a little bit then? We'll go to the next item.
Next item, BC 2021-485, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Department of Public Works, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to TEC Communications Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $81,077.58 for a state contract purchase of Cisco wireless access points and data switches for the Halley Warehouse Building, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This item is to buy, again, the wireless access points and data switches for a build-out on the 6th floor of the Halley Warehouse Building. There's an office from the prosecutor's office that is moving to that building, and it's the implementation of a wireless network over there, and that's what these materials are needed for.
Thank you, Janelle. Are there questions from the board on this item? Mr. Mackler.
Janelle, I don't know if you know this or not, but what, is it a division from the prosecutor's office that's moving in there?
Yes, ICAC is moving over there.
Oh, they're moving there from the Parma, oh, okay. That's interesting. Good. What floor, do you know?
6th.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
And I see Department of Development is here. Would you like to return to item
Yes.
484?
Yes, please.
Good morning. Paul Herdig, Department of Development. Apologies for keeping you waiting. We are requesting authorization to make the second payment of 3 planned payments to Jumpstart. The funds we're requesting authorization to pay are local match for some third frontier funding that Jumpstart is using to support a entrepreneur in residence to support minority tech startups. Jumpstart crafted this program shortly before COVID started with the participation of 4 local minority business development organizations, the President's Council, ECDI, Hispanic Business Center, and the Urban League of Greater Cleveland. Second-year funding should have been approved earlier this year. There was some interruption because the staff person that Jumpstart hired got another job in California and left. And we wanted to pause for a moment to make sure there was a solid plan in place to make sure that all the minority organizations would be truly involved in selecting Ron Stubblefield's replacement. We are satisfied that's now in place. We have emails of support from all the partner organizations, so we're now ready to recommend the second year of funding. And we'll be coming back before the board around April of next year if they make good progress to recommend the third year of funding.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Questions from the board on this item?
Yes. Does this program fund a single entrepreneur in residence or multiple people over the lifetime of the program?
Yes, thank you. It's for one staff position, and again, it was intended that the person that was hired, Ron Stubblefield, would remain the full 3 years, but he will now be replaced. That process is actually well along in terms of interviewing potential replacements.
Additional questions? Mr. Mackler.
Paul, as part of the advanced questions, you wrote back some goals and outcomes. Are any of those met yet, or do we have any numbers on that yet, or is it too early because of COVID and other things, but do we have any numbers based on this?
The The measurements we have so far show that there's 25 entrepreneurs that are being engaged so far. And we've asked that there be what we call intermediate goals to be accomplished by next March, which would include having at least 3 of those entrepreneurs advance to the point where they attract additional funding. That's kind of an important measure of whether your startup actually has some legs. But 25 is the number that have been engaged and supported so far.
Do you know what engage means? Is it, what, do you know, I mean, do you have any more info? If you don't, we can talk about it later. I'm just curious of what.
Thanks. This means that there's been meaningful technical assistance provided by Jumpstart through Ron Stubblefield, or now his replacement, to the entrepreneur.
And have they picked a replacement yet for him?
No. Yeah, the process, however, is that each of the 4 participating organizations is involved in the selection process. We will not be asked to sign off on that, but we're making sure that the 5 organizations are working together on that.
Do you know how long that's been vacant?
Yes, Ron left in, I believe it was May.
Thanks, Paul.
Mr. Boyle, please.
Briefly, so we had initially a 2-year contract at 43,200, correct?
That was for the first year, year 1.
Okay,
And this is year 2 we're bringing forward.
okay, so what's the annual is 43,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And then is the expectation that if we do a 3rd year, that, I mean, would we reassess the number? I mean, there might be an escalator, I'm just curious, you know.
It won't be anymore. We indicated originally for their match that it would be up to 43.2 based on satisfaction every year.
Thank you.
Any final questions from the board on this item? Mr. Mackler, please.
Just Paul, was there any consideration of it potentially being less for this year, considering the position's vacant, or does this go to more than just the salary of that person?
Thanks. It goes to, salary is the big item. There are some other staff time costs being charged, but it's really salary. What we've done is we've changed the dates. So if you look at the dates, this item, we're starting now and running it up through, I believe, next April. So it's an 8-month period, and then the anticipation would be that final support would be for another 8-month period, and that lines up with the 3-year period of the third frontier funding.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next
Thank you.
item.
Next item, BC 2021-486, Department of Workforce Development, submitting an amendment to a contract with Youth Opportunities Unlimited for the Comprehensive Case Management Employment Program, Employment Education and Training Services for Young Adults for the period April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2022, to expand the scope of services to provide school supplies to qualified eligible program participants effective September 19th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $149,625.
Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It feels like an afternoon, but since it's Tuesday, kind of a weird day to start. Anyhow, I'm Paul Bounds, Deputy Administrator from JFS, representing JFS as well as Workforce, and I am here to seek approval of an amendment to the contract, the Summer Youth Employment Contract operated by our contractor, Youth Opportunities Unlimited. The Summer Youth Contract is designed to provide work experience and educational opportunities for low-income TANF-eligible youth in Cuyahoga County. The primary goal of the amendment is to expand the scope of work to allow the provider to provide back-to-school activities and resources such as school supplies such as books, pens, pencils, papers, things like that, for them to return to school. The idea is to utilize prevention, retention, contingency dollars, or PRC funds, which are earmarked specifically for this type of purpose, to modify and allow for this activity to take place. Any questions?
Thank you, Paul. Are there any questions from the board?
Yes. Are there things that are included beyond things like pens, pencils, paper, etc.? $150,000 seems that seems like an awful lot of school supplies.
Yes, so we are, the provider has worked with approximately 750 youth, and they identify a particular check mark of items that they needed to return to school. So it does include pens, pencils, book bags, notebooks, binders, in some cases will be school fees. So each youth has a particular checklist based on what school they're applying to, and the provider did make an overall list of available opportunity of services and activities and items that they will pull from that checklist, depending on what the need of the client happens to be.
Would it include anything like computer tablets?
It will not. We did consider that early on, but the price point was a little high. So we decided to keep it some of the basics items, again, books, pencils, backpacks, etc.
And how many youth are going to be benefiting from this program?
Again, the provider is scheduled to enroll and serve 750 youth, so that's the targeted number. There may be cases where a youth may decide to opt out, but that's the projected number of youth we're targeting to serve.
So if you have 150 youth, that's $1,000 apiece. How would we get to $1,000 apiece on school supplies?
Again, looking at the overall determination based on the school they're going to and the number of supplies that the provider identified are some of the primary key things. And again, this is not an inclusive list, there may be additional things, but primarily, again, we're looking at specifically pens, pencils, book bags, notebooks, folders, day planners. So there may be additional things, but nothing to exceed the actual dollar amount per youth.
Don't see how you get anywhere close to $150,000 buying school supplies for 150 people.
That's a fair point, and I understand. And again, the award is up to, so we may not necessarily reach that dollar amount since these are prevention, contingency dollars. The vendor, the process we put in place will actually invoice for any expended dollars that being reimbursed from this pool. So if they do not meet that dollar amount, those dollars will return to JFS to be used for standard PRC service year-round.
Mr. Boyle, please.
So, this is, I mean, is this listed under summer youth employment? I'm trying to get the time frame here. I mean, the kids are already back to school.
Yes, so the summer youth program actually does end their servicing in October.
Okay.
So as the timeline we projected with the provider, they identified the actual needs from the particular schools that the kids are returning to. So some of the kids have not received these items based on what school they're going to, and some have not returned to school as of yet.
Okay.
Are there further questions? Mr. Mackler, please.
Well, just to follow up from Councilman Miller, is there administrative costs added into this? Is this
No.
all?
It's all program costs, correct?
It does seem high. I mean,
So, I would just like a report back to us on how much was actually spent.
Oh, absolutely. We can do that. Yeah, and part of our protocol, we do have a process where we track the invoicing and actual services which are delivered to clients, so that's something we can make available to you.
Paul, was this the same amount as last year or the year before?
No, this was the first time we've done this.
Okay.
And this is part of a pool of dollars the state has made available through COVID relief,
I see.
packaging through prevention, retention, and contingency. So it's the first time we've done this by working with a subcontractor.
Okay. And so it's a not to exceed, and if you don't spend it, it goes back into the account?
Absolutely, correct.
Okay. So if you don't mind getting the report as requested, that'd be great.
I'll be happy to do such.
Any final questions on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-487, Fiscal Office, submitting an amendment to an agreement with the State of Ohio Office of the Auditor for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for calendar year 2020, for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $10,400.
Good morning, Michael Sapola, Fiscal Office. This is a little bit of additional funding due to the year that they're looking at. We converted early in that year from the legacy system over to the Infor Lawson system. So it's additional time just to take care of that little extra rollover.
Hey, Mike, is there any questions from the board on this item, please? Trevor? Oh, sorry.
Me too.
Okay, seeing no questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-488, Office of Innovation and Performance, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Digital C in the amount not to exceed $330,000 for the build-out of a wireless internet service infrastructure to support affordable in-home high-speed broadband services to residents in the central neighborhood for the period September 7th, 2021 through September 6th, 2022, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, everybody. Becky Eby, Office of Innovation and Performance. This is an agreement with Digital C for the build-out of a wireless internet service infrastructure to support affordable in-home high-speed broadband to residents of the central neighborhood as a part of the Central Neighborhood Surge. These dollars would go to specifically the infrastructure. All operating costs are going to be covered by Digital C. And these dollars are also part of matching funds that were submitted as a part of a grant through the Cleveland Public Library. So any questions?
Thank you, Becky. Are there questions from the board on this item?
It says in the information that the coverage area would be 2,500 households. However, the grant currently includes equipment for 500 families. So, does this mean we're only planning to serve 500 families? Are we planning eventually to get to 2,500? What do we have in mind?
Right. So, Councilman, so this is absolutely right. The coverage area does serve about 2,500 households. We will be supporting about 500 families through this. As with anything, the most important part of this is affordable, high-speed broadband. And so anytime you're looking to increase the number of folks on a service, is going to affect the quality of that service. So right now our focus is on these 500 households. If we wanted to expand that, I think there would have to be conversations to make sure we didn't lose the quality of service.
Are there additional questions on this item?
So, how do we choose which 500 out of the 2,500 in the service area?
I think I'm going to phone a friend on this one, Catherine.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll answer some questions on it as well. So Digital C has been working, they have a wait list of folks in the central neighborhood that they will address first. But then also it is going to be in a first come, first serve. We're putting out notification that people can sign up when we've had the central neighborhood surge. There's also been an opportunity for folks to sign up to be on the wait list so that when they get service, they can address it as well. But again, I think if we see, this is specifically for this project, but we also have the RFP that's out there that may allow us to do additional things going forward. But this one was specifically for it since it's got some matching federal dollars with it.
So, if you take the $330,000 and you divide it by 500, that means it costs $660 per family for the infrastructure. It seems like a lot of money just to set up the system. Is that what it costs?
That's cheap. So if you were talking about a wired fiber to the home, you'd be talking about $1,300 plus per household. That's one of the benefits of doing some wireless internet service. Now, again, it's certainly more expensive than a hotspot, but it's a better service that's more reliable and also has some other positives to it. So generally, a wireline connection estimates are about $1,300 per household, and that has some other negatives where you have to serve every household, where this one is a little bit more mobile if people move as well.
Okay.
Mr. Mackler, please.
On the infrastructure, the 330, is the infrastructure going for the actual antennas or the routers or modems that are going in individual houses?
So yeah, it's mostly going to be the sort of fiber the backhaul infrastructure and the what they call like a wireless fiber ring in the sky. The actual in-home modems and all of that, that's on the grant that was submitted by the Cleveland Public Library.
And then out of, I don't know if you have these stats, Catherine, but out of the 2,500 individuals in the 2,500 households in the neighborhood, how many currently have internet? Do you know?
So, I don't know the exact number, but I believe that that neighborhood in and of itself has about a 40% connected rate.
Okay.
So it's one of our least connected neighborhoods in the entire county.
And then you mentioned Digital C already has a waiting list. Do you know how many people are on that waiting list, or how many households are on that waiting list?
I do not off the top of my head.
And then if Digital C were to no longer exist, what happens with the infrastructure? Is there anything in the contract that would revert back to us or anything? Do we know what happens to the infrastructure?
So there's not anything that reverts back to us on this. If they don't exist anymore, I think then that probably would go for whatever reason. I mean, I think the nice thing about that is they just received a $20 million grant. So I think they have some infusion for a while of funds to operate and continue to maintain their service. But there's not a reversion, as they would be the ones that would be the owner of the equipment and the maintainer of the equipment and all of that that goes along with it.
If the decision was made to provide it to more than 500 families, will the existing infrastructure be sufficient to go above 500, or would it require more dollars to go into the actual infrastructure component?
So it would depend. I think the first goal would be to see the speeds that everybody's getting right now. We could add people, but what would happen is the quality of the service would begin to deteriorate. And so it's a matter of making sure that we have the right capacity while to provide the service. So I can't say, if it's 501, 502, that's probably fine. It's just at some point the service quality starts to degrade, and then you would need additional infrastructure costs in order to provide more folks service.
And then I just have a follow-up from the advanced questions. It was asked if it would require an additional appropriation or not, and it said it's included in the budget. I just have, in terms of timing, right, the surge project came about after the budget was passed, so just how was this included in the budget if the concept of surge came after the budget was approved?
So there were some funds that were sort of set aside as reserved for different services around, I think, just COVID and different things like that. So we're going to hit that but we're going to also review it for ARPA dollars as we go to appropriate those. So
right now, I mean, the Office of Innovation and Performance has $330,000.
It's not in our budget. It's in just the general fund budget overall.
Do you know what? I know but what account? I mean, are we sure there's 330 available? I mean, is it under like the miscellaneous accounting code? Do we know where it's?
We'll
actually?
have to look. I don't know offhand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. I mean, because I think it might require counsel. I don't know where we would have put this money in I mean, it's just a lot of money.
I'll have to go back and look at what accounting code they gave us.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a.
We'll double check it. Any additional questions on this item?
Yes, a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Who provided the $20 million grant to Digital C, and what's the money going to be used for?
That was by the Mandel Foundation, and there was another foundation that I'm blanking on right now. And it's
Cleveland Fund.
No, it wasn't the Cleveland. It was and I'm blanking on. But it's for a couple of different things. One, it's for infrastructure costs, and two, it's operating support and engagement as well. So it's to help build out their network in Cleveland as well.
Okay, we'll take it.
Mr. Boyle?
Just briefly,
Yeah.
so Digital C then is gonna charge the families $18, I think is what my understanding, is that right?
Correct, $18 a month plus tax.
And then it says that there will be, qualified families will pay less or receive, what are those, do you know what the qualifications are that would allow them to pay less?
So they have a variety of different initiatives that have helped reduce costs. So for example, Cleveland Metropolitan School District is doing a project where they're actually paying for internet service for all of their families, and Digital C is one of their customers that can do it. So if you have a student at CMSD, then they'll pay a portion of the internet service through some of their programs. They've had some other donations by corporations and stuff that each set their sort of own qualifications of neighborhoods and things that can reduce that cost as well for folks. So they have a lot of different programs that help reduce that $18 a month cost even lower.
Because that's, I mean, that's a fantastic rate. I mean, and that's,
Mhm.
so I think what, if I'm hearing you, you're linking in with other programs to allow that, okay.
Right.
And then, this map goes with it, correct?
Yes.
So, and if you can just, and again, I apologize, because the folks that don't have the map in front of them, you got building 1, building 2, and then Cedar. I mean, what is the, I mean, I assume they're highlighted, what's the expectation there?
That's where they're actually putting some of the infrastructure
Okay, so
for
it's
their
like what we did in
fiber.
juvenile court when you
Yes.
put it on the,
Mhm.
all right. And
Yeah.
are these buildings already identified?
They're already identified, and there are already people they're working with as well that they can do it.
Got it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mr. Mackler, please.
Beck, just, or Catherine, what's the speed? Do you know the speed of the internet that is gonna be delivered?
So I believe, I'm just making sure I'm not screwing up any of it. I believe it's a minimum of 50/10 is the speed. But some of their projects go higher than that as well.
Mr.
No, that,
I have no
I mean,
idea what that means, but I assume that you do.
Well, I do, but, I mean, Jim, your point, this is for less than $18 a month. I mean, that is really affordable internet. And it hopefully is something that we could go out to other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the intention. I mean, I think we have some other larger digital inclusion plans, but this is just sort of one step in it.
Is there, to your answers to Councilman Miller's questions about it being wireless, though, is there studies, or, I mean, is there an advantage between wireless versus wired? I mean, obviously, besides speeds and stuff, but is there a downside to doing wireless instead of the infrastructure for the wired internet?
I think one of it is the level of the highest level of speed that you can get, right? So again, when you're talking, if you can do a wire line of gig fiber, right now there's not something that's going to offer you gig service that's wireless. But at the same time, and Andy, you can jump in if I say anything crazy. But I think some of the things that have been very beneficial over the last 5 years, wireless technology and the ability to do that has expanded sort of exponentially and will continue to improve. So, I mean, I think there are some things that line of sight issues that can happen too. There are specific areas. You'll see the little cutout in red that kind of goes in there. That's because of some structural issues where a wire line or a wireless solution is really not going to work for them. So we're not just saying it doesn't just cover everybody the same way that a wire line can because of sometimes the structure of the building and some different things with line of sight. So you have to be very careful about where you place things and what they can cover. But at the same time, it's, half the cost of doing that. And so it allows us to also connect many more families at a reasonable price.
Do you know if the goal is all 500, or do we know right now if the 500 families will qualify for a lesser amount than the 18 or even no cost plans? Do we know, is that going to be our target group of people that we're trying to provide the wireless to, or are we not that far along yet?
I think we're definitely, I think, again, we are certainly going to want to target families with a CMSD student to make sure that they have internet access in their home. That's a high priority for us as well. And again, I think in this neighborhood, you're going to have a lot of residents that will qualify for various programs, even including, as right now, you may be aware, the federal government has the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program that also provides subsidies. It would be my expectation that a lot of folks do qualify for those. But again, it's not going to be required that you qualify for one of those programs to sign up for this. It isn't income required because the goal is to provide affordable internet to everybody.
And Catherine, this is not related to this item, but last year, the county executive provided the T-Mobile, I believe it was hotspots for, I think, 1,000 families or something.
5,000.
5,000 households. Did we follow up or track, did any of those families continue that service after the money?
So we actually funded that for 2 years. So that's actually
2 years,
still
okay.
ongoing, that they have that continued service for it. It goes through, I want to say, August of 2022 or so.
Okay.
Mhm.
Are any of those in the central neighborhood, do we know?
I will have to get the list. I'm not sure, so I have to get the list. They may not have been because, again, CMSD did a lot of things for their students as well that was separate from, we were focused more on a lot of the students that weren't necessarily in CMSD because they had their own program.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Just briefly, it's a comment more than a question, but, and I'd asked Mr. Hurtig this a couple weeks back about the definitional aspects of the surge program. I mean, has that been defined? I mean, is there it just seems like it's a concept more than it is. Can you just see, I know I asked Paul that a little while back. I mean, is there some description of what locations from X to Y and what the expectations are? I mean, I don't think anyone's conceptually against it. If you can just let me know, that's all I'm asking.
If I may?
Yeah.
Paul Hurtig again. Thanks for the question. There's a little bit of a tension between wanting to do authentic community engagement before committing to the exact outcomes and also wanting to be clear up front about what's going to be done. So I think we can be very positive in saying we're aiming at supporting the central neighborhood of Cleveland as it's traditionally defined. We've already begun job matching programs. In fact, we've held one job fair, another one's being held tomorrow. We've held a community meeting the executive was at. As is being discussed this morning, broadband support is already underway. So it's not that county government is not making investments. And in fact, Director Dever announced a pretty substantial investment, infrastructure investment publicly. What I would say, though, is that at least for the job matching and small business assistance portions, we're holding off a little bit to set the actual service targets while we continue to do our engagement. In fact, we're having a meeting this afternoon with two of our key partners. One is Burton Bell and Carr Development Corporation, the other is Friendly and Settlement House. So while we know absolutely our goals will be to get good, well-paid jobs for central residents and to get assistance to central small businesses, we're holding off, and Becky's been great in reminding me, on setting the exact service targets until we finish that engagement. I hope that.
Yeah, and I would say
somewhat
just,
helpful.
I mean, like I said, on the digital inclusion front, Central Neighborhood is, I don't know if it's our top least connected neighborhood, but it's certainly up there as one of the least connected.
No, I agree with all that. So for example, on the map that's in front of us, am I to assume, I mean, is the central neighborhood as Paul said, traditionally defined, is that the gray area?
I think it's a little bit small.
It's, yes, we don't cover the entire, we cover about 70% of the central neighborhood for this project. So that's what you're seeing here.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking for. So like, I mean, like if I can know what the geographical descriptions are, because what my concern would be if I lived, I don't have my glasses, but if I lived on East 70th, you know, on the outside of the gray line, I'm like, hey, I'm traditional, why am I not in there? And without any description of, hey, this is what the traditional central neighborhood is, I don't know that we have an answer for them.
Right.
So that's all I'm looking for, just any description. And Paul, I get what you're saying,
I will say, the city of Cleveland has helped us. There is in fact a statistical planning area, that's planning.
That's
speak,
what yeah, can you send me that?
Which is identified on, and I'll pull it down for you.
Fantastic.
The city has published its maps showing the central neighborhood.
Perfect.
And because it's in the city, that's the traditional planning definition of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's all I'm looking at, so that at least, I mean, starting with the geographical from, you know, this to that, to this to that, at least we know what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Okay, any final questions, comments in this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-489, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance in the amount not to exceed $208,850 for non-therapeutic intervention and trauma-informed peer mentoring services for the Violence Intervention Program pilot expansion for the period October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Morning. I'm Linda Lagoonzad, co-administrator of the Corrections Planning Board with the court. This item is a 3-year contract with Cleveland Peacemakers. and it supports the implementation expansion of the court's violence intervention program pilot. The court, with the support of its adult probation department, was awarded a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to expand its violence intervention program pilot that captures young adult felony offenders, ages approximately 18 to 26 years old, who are arrested for gun possession and are at an increased risk of committing future gun-related violent crimes. So under this expansion effort, offenders will be connected with trauma-informed resources, services, and supports that will make them accountable, influences positive behavior, and allows them to live successfully within their communities. The VIP pilot expansion will merge the swift, certain, and fair principles from the U.S. Department of Justice related to community corrections with a trauma-informed approach that prevents gun violence through a dedicated judge, a coordinator, a probation officer, and there are a couple other services that this grant supports. Peer mentors, which is this contract here with Cleveland Peacemakers Alliance. It also has workforce skill development through the Passages Employment Program and recovery coaching, community care navigation, and victim advocacy services from Metro Health's Medical Centers Trauma Recovery Center. So this particular contract is supporting up to 35 individuals to receive peer support services as they're related to the violence intervention program, and they'll build these peer mentoring. Coaches will build rapport with participants using a trauma-informed coaching process, and it focuses on developing pro-social behavior, improving interpersonal relationships, and setting realistic thinking, coping, and problem-solving skills through goal-setting, supportive, and community supervision plans. So that's it.
Thank you, Linda. Questions from the board on this item?
These are not juvenile offenders, though, right? These are, and so it's young adult, I
Yes.
think is, what
I
is?
said 18, averaging 18 to what, 18 years
26.
old to 26 years
Got
old.
it, thank you.
Additional questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-490, Court of Common Pleas Corrections Planning Board, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with the Metro Health System in the amount not to exceed $225,000 for therapeutic intervention of trauma-informed recovery services for the Violence Intervention Program pilot expansion for the period October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2023.
Again, Linda Lagoonzad, co-administrator with the Corrections Planning Board. So this is the other contract that's associated with the Violence Intervention Program, bringing in Metro Health's Trauma Recovery Center. And this is a unique partnership, and it's unique for this type of program in the United States. I understand from Sarah Hendrickson, who's the director of the Metro Health's Trauma Recovery Center. So the participants in the Violence Intervention Program pilot expansion will have the opportunity to meet with counselors at Metro Health and to address their issues related to, informing, to developing and influencing positive behavior and allowing these individuals to also live successfully within their communities, getting to the heart of the matter as to why you're really in the violence intervention program in the first place. So at least 35 people will be provided these services. We're really excited about this. And I have to say, Metro Health has been a great, great partner at this point. And we're really into data collection with this program. And so we hope to have some great results out of this pilot expansion when it's over.
Thank you again, Linda. Any questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-491, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a contract with Mizanin Reporting Service Incorporated for court transcription services for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $50,000.
Good morning, Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is just an amendment to add in additional funding to our court transcription contract with Mizanin. This additional $50,000 will allow us to pay invoices for the rest of this contract term.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. Questions from the board?
Is
Mr.
this
Boyle?
more, oh, I'm sorry, Dale, go ahead. Were you gonna?
Go ahead.
Is this more, I mean, are we getting more transcripts? What, I mean, is there something that you're seeing that we should be paying attention to moving forward in the next year?
So when we ran some data to see what caused this for this term, it looks like the majority of the requests that we received from 2020 and 2021 up until current were, the requests needed to be turned in within 15 to 29 days or 7 to 14 days, which means it costs more per page.
Oh, okay.
Typically, we like the request to be made for 30 days. And I think currently the clerk's office, the director of the clerk's office, is working on a policy to have the parties only request for 30 days, and kind of putting the onus more on the parties that are requesting the transcripts to turn them in timely, so we can do the 30-day request versus, hey, we need this in 7 days. Hey, we need these overnight.
They don't have stenographers, though. I apologize, I'm pretty old. They used to just have the tape recordings and transcribe from the recordings. Do they use stenographers now in juvie?
So we have CourtSmart, which is our digital recording
Okay.
system in our courtrooms.
Got it.
So we'll get like, they'll request the audio from that.
Right.
They'll pick up the audio, or we'll send it to them, and they,
Transcribe
transcribe,
from
and then per page cost.
And do we, I mean, like at comment, you don't have stenographers or anybody in-house that you would?
No, we do
All
not
right.
have any court reporters. We use the CourtSmart for the digital recording. Every so often, depending on maybe if it's a big trial or something major going on, a judge might request a court reporter,
Okay.
but that's pretty rare.
I mean, do you know like how much we pay on an annual basis for, I mean, what is Mizzenen's, I mean, they're fine, I mean, I don't have any objection to it. So what, I mean, do you know what their annual?
Typically, it's been running for the last several years about 80,000
Oh, all right,
a year.
that's fine. All right.
And because of kind of what we seem to see here was the requests were just coming in and asking for shorter turnarounds.
I mean, it doesn't seem to warrant having I mean, like, common pleas have their own set and they're court employees, but it just doesn't seem to be cost effective if you're only spending 80,000 a year and you've already got a transcript. All right, fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
You would think with today's technology, that would be robotic or something.
You know, when I was there, it was literally a tape recorder on the desk. That was 45 years ago, that's a good point.
Okay, any final questions? Seeing none, make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thank
Next item,
you.
please.
Next item, BC 2021-492, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 5011 and enter into a contract with LP Ministries Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $79,040 for contract monitoring services for the Diversion Center for the period September 8th, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
Good afternoon, everyone. Brandy Carney, Chief of Special Operations for the county. This is for, as she said, contract monitoring for our diversion center. The diversion center project, as you likely know, has 3 different vendors that we're working with. That's the Adams Board, the County Adams Board, that's doing the crisis intervention training countywide to police departments and holding regular classes. It's Frontline Services that does the 24/7 call center, and it's the Oriana House that does day-to-day operation. This particular contract monitor will monitor all the services within that contract, as well as I listed approximately 100 plus metrics within the contract. And they regularly are providing those metrics with us. So the contract monitor will, in addition, ensure, the metrics, the accuracy of the metrics, as well as some analytics around those metrics, particularly both for the county, but also for our diversion center board. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Just for clarification, because this came up on one of the RFP calls, it's not a program monitor, so we're not looking for someone to assess the program, but specific to the details within the contract and ensuring that those are met. Very different two types of projects.
Okay, thank you, Brandy. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Yes.
Councilman Miller, please.
So, how far along is the design consultant in the process of designing the new diversion center? As to preferred location for the.
Thank you, Councilman. So Prospectus is the architectural design contract that's only been hired. We just had our third meeting with them. I think they've been on for approximately a month. They are currently doing assessments for 3 sites that we have within the county. And I don't want to say specifically, but I am expecting in the next couple of months to have information specific to those sites so that we can, and I don't know, Chambers, if you had anything additional, but we can narrow that down within the next few months for those 3 sites. And we expect to have design documents and other details for the overall cost later this fall from them, from Prospectus.
Thank you.
Mr. Mackler, please.
Brandy, just, one of the advanced questions was what was the ADP at the diversion center? And I think the response was they give us the total number of individuals that have been served since they opened. Like, how many?
Daily population.
How many people were there over
So,
the weekend?
I can get that for you. Again, they regularly, the metrics, which are very nice, and I can send you the recent document that they have, breaks everything down. Obviously, the number to date is 52, so that number is quite low. 2 weeks ago, the average, we've had sporadic kind of jumps, especially with particular users, but I apologize, I can get the average daily number for you easily.
Are we around 10? Do we know just, I know.
Oh, no, it's significantly lower than that.
Okay.
It's less than 5.
Okay. Is there, every morning we get the ADP for the jail? Is there a similar type of notification that goes for the diversion center or no?
So there isn't, but what they do is, as I mentioned, I have about 100+ metrics that are provided. Kind of the large overall metrics, such as how many people, how long of their stay, things of that nature. They report monthly to us in the ClearPoint system that Innovation has. So I can give you access to that system, and there's actually a nice report that comes out that's kind of general overview that was almost made specifically for council questions. Separately, well, because it's a good printout, I didn't mean that to sound. Separately, the whole book of the other metrics that I'm working through and studying are provided every other month. So I don't have the daily numbers. I could probably get them to you weekly, but if not, definitely monthly. I can put you, you can have access to those systems to see.
Okay, that'd be great. We know the issues, right, with the city of Cleveland. That's not, no one's, we're upset that they're not using it the way they should be, but no one's, people understand why the ADP is so low, but.
It really is.
It's just good to know how many people are there on an average basis, so.
You are completely right, and to be honest with you, that's such like the 800-pound gorilla, as Bob's always saying. Once that's in place, I like to find out daily, okay, how many people, so I can understand where you're coming from. So right now, I just usually find out weekly, or I look in the system monthly, but, probably once we get moving, I can work to make sure that you get those, just like the jail, emails that are sent out every morning.
I think that would be great. I don't share it every day with the council members in terms of
It's
the
helpful.
ADP for the jail, but just every week or so that they just get a general idea of how many people are using the facility. And so if we could even maybe do something similar that we do for the jail, Brandy, because I think you're on that distribution.
Yeah, I am.
more or
I
less.
have it.
I think it just would be helpful to get a general idea how many people were there last night.
So what I can do, in addition, kind of we talked about access to those systems, is daily might be difficult now because I have vendors, but weekly I can put a couple bullets together and make sure that we have a distribution list and that you're on those, just like we said, because weekly is helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any final questions on this item?
Yes. Do we have a prime site in mind for the new jail, or are we still looking at multiple sites?
Councilman, we have 3 sites that we're currently assessing. Again, the vendor right now is, taking, an unbiased look at each of the 3 sites, what they're zoned for, whether there's restrictions on the amount of land, if they can build up, if they would have to rebuild, or is it a tear down? So those are all assessments and information that that Prospectus is bringing back to the county in the next few months here for the 3 sites.
I don't think you understood my question.
Sorry.
I kind of went off the rails a little bit and asked whether we have a single site in mind for the new jail, not the permanent diversion center.
Oh, I apologize. I'm stuck on
Yeah.
diversion.
No, I went off
yeah.
the rails. I apologize.
I don't have the answer to that question. I can get that information from Bob or Bill, but I don't have that information, but I can pass it on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I was diversion mode deep,
Okay.
you know.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved.
Thanks, everybody.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-493, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, recommending an award on requisition 3095 and enter into a contract with Belfair JCB in the amount not to exceed $245,000 for a service coordination crisis bed and related crisis stabilization services for the period August 1st, 2021 through July 31st, 2022.
Good morning, Kathleen Johnson from Family and Children First Council. This is our contract. We did an RFQ for the Service Coordination Crisis Bid, and Belfair won the award. There are several items that we're going to be addressed with the crisis bid. It's a crisis stabilization bid in lieu of a hospitalization stay for any youth. It is supposed to be short-term, up to 30 days. It will be reviewed by our service coordinators. There will be weekly meetings with the parents, the provider, to see what type of long-term services the youth will need. Again, this is for crisis children involved with, multi-system youth involved with FCFC and their experience in an actual crisis, and also to reduce the risk of actual custody during this crisis time. And it's going to go all the way until the end of next year. So if you need more information, I have that as well.
Thank you, Kathleen. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2021-494, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, recommending awards on requisition 2941 and enter into a master contract with various providers in the total amount not to exceed $300,000 for opioid addiction prevention and training services for various school districts in Cuyahoga County for the period September 7th, 2021 through December 31st, 2022, with Belfair JCB in the amount not to exceed $175,000, and with Golden Ciphers Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $125,000.
Good morning, Kathleen Johnson again from Family and Children First Council. This program is going to be for the opioid crisis prevention. It was funding from the opioid mitigation funds. We did an RFP, and Belfair and Golden Ciphers were the two recipients of that award. They have both chosen to use evidence-informed promising practices. Belfair is going to use then life skills, and they're going to go into the different school districts. I do have a list of the school districts if you need those as well. They're going to target 9th grade and 4th grade students, and parent and caregivers of 6th grade through 9th grade students through a cohort program model. And they will be also a peer prevention providers with the young adults in the schools, and also environmental strategies bolstering school-based efforts. Belfair is also going to use this in conjunction with their SAY program. And then for Golden Ciphers, they're going to be also use an evidence-based program, which is called Keeping It Real. And they're going to their program is going to target all school-age youth from 12 to 18 in 4 districts. And their program is designed to increase drug resistance life skills among that age group.
Okay, Kathleen, thank you. Are there questions from the board? Trevor?
Just, this is phase one, right, of the opioid dollars, right? This is what
Yes.
we originally were planning to do a couple years back, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Do we know why it took so long to get here? Just curious.
We had a lot of problems getting all the documents from the vendors, and then by the time they were submitted, they expired, and we just had to, keep going over like some of the insurance requirements, with one of the vendors. And we submitted this probably 4 times in M4 before I got actually to this stage. And again, just mostly because of the document requirement.
Additional questions in this item? Councilman Miller,
Yes,
please.
You're dealing with an age group where it's hard to tell anybody anything. What's your strategy for increasing drug resistance in this age group?
Honestly, other than what I have in front of me in regards to their evidence models, I'm not really sure how I can answer that question for you. There are going to be evaluation of it. I don't know exactly what incentives they're going to use, to engage the students while they're there.
So I'd like to ask you to get more information
Okay.
and send it around, but I'm ready to proceed on the item.
Any additional, Mr. Boyle, please.
Just before the vote is taken, I have a familial relationship with somebody at the Orange School District. My wife is on this school board there. I don't believe it's a conflict, but in the interest of better safe than sorry, I will be abstaining.
Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
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 One
Opposed?
abstention. Oh.
None, and 1 abstention. Thank you. Item passed. Next item.
Okay, moving on to exemptions, item BC 2021-495, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council. Recommending to amend Board Approval Number BC 2021-20, dated January 19th, 2021, which approved an alternative procurement process on requisition 4450 and resulted in award recommendations to various providers referred by various county agencies in the total amount not to exceed $375,000 for the implementation of the Multi-System Youth Program for the period July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. To extend the time period to June 30th, 2023, no additional funds required.
Good afternoon, Kathleen Johnson, Family and Children First Council. This program, this alternative exemption is for our multi-system youth program. This is funding that was designated by the governor's office, and we were allotted 2 more years of this program funding. So this is an exemption to extend the actual alternative procurement, and that will allow us to pay vendors in a timely fashion. We don't know who the vendors are until the services are actually put in on the application, and then we'll pay them. It's also a reimbursement through the state funding, so we're not spending out any money that we are not going to be receiving back.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Macular. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-496, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council. Recommending an alternative procurement process, which will result in award recommendations to various providers referred by various county agencies in the total amount not to exceed $495,000 for the implementation of the Multi-System Youth Program for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023.
Good afternoon, Kathleen Johnson, Family and Children First Council. Again, this is related to the above item with the funding that is granted by the governor. This will allow us to pay for specific services that are on the application. There's a state review team that approves the application. They are again involved with our Family and Children First Council service coordination planning process. The services could be home adaptations, community-based program like respite, As long as there's no issues of abuse or neglect, these services help to prevent relinquishing custody and to get assistance from the service coordination team. We are actually the sub-grantee of the funding, and the money rolls over from year to year. And it does not have to be returned to the end of the state by June 30th, as is our Family Center Services and Support dollars are. It is in the state budget, as I stated earlier. We don't know what our allocation amount is at this time. And this, we are requesting to give us flexible dollars based on the needs of the families, again, and it'll be related to another item on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Macular. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Moving on to consent agenda.
We're moving on to consent agenda items number BC 2021-497 through 502.
If anyone needs a moment or two to review, feel free to ask any questions. Are there any questions on today's consent agenda item? Oh, thank you. We have a movement for approval. I will second. I was waiting on Mr.
He's
Boyle.
hungry,
He
man.
was
I will
looking.
second.
Okay, we have moved by Mr. Mackler, seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Moving on to other business.
No other business
No other business. Is there any additional public comment?
and no public comment.
I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Seconded by Miss Melanie Say. Come on. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. We're adjourned. Thank you.